This is the guided notes, video notes for guided notes finding slope 3 ways. Now, first of all, let's define what slope means. Slope is the amount of incline a line has. So just think about my pen right here being a line, okay? So I've got it pointing this way. I could point it this way. It could be almost horizontal. It could be almost vertical. So how much incline does it have? And is it going uphill or downhill, or if it's just straight up and down, or if it's just straight across, horizontal, vertical? Okay, slope describes that. Slope also will tell us a numeric value to be very specific. Now, there is 3 ways you can find the slope of a line that is going to pass between any 2 given points that you know. The first method is by graphing. The second method is by a table of values. And then the third method is a formula. Okay? Now, let's just take a look. We're going to do 4 examples. Okay? One is going to be a positive slope, one will be a negative slope, one will be a 0 slope, and the other one will be an undefined slope. We're going to find each of these 3 ways, and we're going to see how our answer comes out to be the same with very different strategies. Okay, so let's look at our first one right here. I've got the points -2, -3, and 2, 3. So if I want to graph this, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to my graph paper and I'm graph my 2 points. So -2, -3 right here, and then +2, +3 right here. Okay, and I'm going to lay down my ruler and I'm going to connect them. Now, when we do the slope of a line using the graph, we have a little acronym that we're going to remember. Oh, first of all, let's back up for just a second. Lowercase m is the symbol for slope. Okay, what we use to remember this is our little acronym is rise over run. Rise means how much you go up or down, and run means how much you're going to go to the right. And this is just a cute little way to remember it that some math teacher, Bob, years and years and years ago came up with. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my picture right here. And I always start on the left and I move to the right. Okay, you always start on the left and go to the right. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to think about drawing a right triangle that connects my 2 points. Okay, has to be a right triangle. Okay, now I'm going to count how many lines I go up or the length of that side. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right there. Then I'm going to count how many over. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I think about the slope here, it's rise over run. So that is going to give me right here 6 over 4. But I know 6 over 4 can simplify. 6 over 4 is the same thing as 3 over 2. Now, with slope, you never, ever, never make it a mixed numbers. Always a regular fraction or an improper fraction, but a fraction. Okay? Now, this is a positive line because I went up, and think about what we consider positive and negatives. Up means positive, down means negative. To the right means positive, to the left means negative. So I went up, which is positive, and I went to the right, which is positive. So that makes my slope a positive. Okay, now I'm emphasizing that because in example 2, we're going to have a negative. okay? So let's look at example 2's graph right here, okay? Now, I'm going to graph 2, -4, and -4, 4. So let's see, 2, -4, right there, and -4, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right there. Remember, I'm going to connect them because I need the line that passes through them. And of course, we put arrows on the end because it's just a line. Now, remember, we're going to start at the point on the left. Okay, so we're going to start right here. So to get from the left point to the point on the right, we've got to go down and to the right. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go down and to the right and make my right triangle right here. See, my right triangle? Now I'm going to count the length of those sides. Now I'm going down, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Since I went down, it's -8. Now let's go to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Since I went to the right, that's in a positive direction, so that's 6. So if I wanted to come out here, I could say my slope, my lowercase m, is rise over run. That makes m equal to -8 over 6. But guys, let's simplify that. That's the same thing as -4 over 3. Now I want you to notice something. See how this line, if you start at the left, it's like if you were on the side of a mountain, you'd be going downhill. Negative slopes always have you going downhill. Positive slopes always have you going uphill. Okay? So we've done one positive, we've done one negative. Now let's look at a 0. Okay? Now look right here. 2, 1, and -4, 1. Let's go ahead and graph those. So we got 2 and 1. And then we got -4 and 1 right here. So when I connect those, something I noticed right off the bat is that that's horizontal. Now I want you to think about, how can you make a right triangle with those 2 points like we did in the first 2? You can't. You can't. Okay. Now let's think about what's happening here. If I have rise over run. Now we're going to start with the point on the left, remember? So we're going to start right here. How many do I go up or down? Yep, don't go up and down any, do I? These 2 points are straight across from each other. They're horizontal. So my rise here is 0. Now how much is my run? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But guys, look right here. 0 over 6 simplifies to what? It's just a big old 0. Guys, anytime you have a horizontal line, you're going to always have a slope of 0. Okay? Now, the last example is the complete opposite of a horizontal, which is vertical. Okay, so let's look at number 4. Now let's graph number 4. We've got -4, -3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3 right here. And we've got -4, +2. So I see this horizontal line. Now, if I tried to make a right triangle like I did in the first 2, I wouldn't be able to, would I? Nope. But we can still think about rise over run. Now, our rise, how much are we going up? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Our run, how much are we going to the side? Well, we're not, because one's right above the other, isn't it? So our run is actually 0. But now here's where you got to be really smart. and remember some facts. What's the one number we can never divide by and it can never be the denominator of a fraction? It's 0, isn't it? So since we have a 0 in the denominator and that is not possible in our world, we're going to say that there is no slope. And sometimes they will say it is undefined. Okay, the reason it's called undefined is because of the 0 in the denominator. Because we cannot have a 0 in the denominator, that means it has no answer, but instead of saying no answer, we just say no slope. This will only occur when we have a what? A vertical line. Okay, now we've just gone through how to count rise, over, run. Okay, this is the way all 8th graders have to know how to find slope. Okay, now I'm going to go back and look at our other 2 methods because these are the Math 1 methods. Okay, now if I have a table of values, let's just do this. Let's just take our 2 points right here and let's just turn them into a table. We've got X and Y. I'm just going to write in my 2 points. It really doesn't even matter which one you write where, okay? Which one's first, which one's second, does not matter. Now, if you want to use the table of value method, our little remembering is this. M is the change in Y over the change in X. That's a Y right there. Okay, so change in Y over change in X. Now, there's a symbol for that. Okay, and I'm going to run out of room. I'm writing too big. The symbol for change is a little triangle. Okay, I'm going to just write it right here. The symbol in math is a little triangle, just like that. What that really is called is the Greek letter delta. Okay, so sometimes people are going to say delta Y over delta X. If you see that, you don't say triangle Y over triangle X, you say the change in Y over the change in X, or you can say delta Y over delta X. Now, what I mean by the change? Well, we're going to look over here and we're going to see what we're going to add to each in our pattern to get to the next number. So look right here. What do I add to -3 to get +3? Well, that would be +6. What do I add to -2 to get to +2? Well, that would be 4. So if I look right here, I'm going to have, now be careful, change in Y. It's over here at 6. Change in X is over here, which is 4. Don't get them mixed up. That would be 6 over 4, which we know simplifies to 3 over 2. Now I want you to look right there. Look right here. Oh my. Whether I did the table or the graph, this part right here was exactly the same. Now, let's do the same thing for number 2. Okay? So I've got X and Y, and we'll try to write a little bit smaller here. Oops. I've got 2 and -4, -4 and 4. Now, let's look at our differences. -4 plus what gives me +4? That would be 8. 2 plus what gives me -4? Well, that would be -6, because 2 minus 6 is -4. So right here, I'm not going to write that whole big change out stuff. I'm going to put change in Y over change in X equals 8. This is my Y. And -6 for the change in X. but that's going to simplify to -4/3. Now, notice I shifted the negative to the numerator. Okay, there's nothing that says you can't have a negative in denominator, but you will never find people who write it that way. They will always let the numerator hold the negative sign. Oh, well, look right here. Huh, that's the same. This is the same. Wow. Okay, so I got the same answer. Now, let's try this table with this horizontal line. So I've got X and Y. Let's see, we've got 2 and 1 and -4 and 1. So if I look at my common differences right here, what do I add to 1 to get 1? 0. What do I add to 2 to get -4? Well, that's -6 again, isn't it? Okay, because 2 minus 6 is -4. Now, let's go ahead and put it in our little formula right here. So change in Y over change in X equals 0 divided by -6. But guys, 0 divided by anything is just what? 0, isn't it? Well, it's the same answer I got over here, 0. Now, let's look at that vertical one. I'll tell you guys, the table of values is actually my favorite method. I think it's just the easiest. All right, so if I make my table for the fourth one, I look right here. What do I add to -3 to get +2? I'm going to add 5. What do I add to -4 to get -4? I get 0. So if I come right here, I've got the change in Y over the change in X. So change in Y is 5, and the change in X is 0. But again, I cannot divide by 0. I cannot have 0 in my denominator. So at this point, I've got to say right here, no slope. What's the other word for no slope? It's undefined. Now, they're not going to write both of these. They're going to write one or the other, okay? Now, our last method is the formula, okay? And this is probably my least favorite, but if you like to memorize formulas, this will be yours. Here is what the formula says. It says y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Okay, now we know those subscripts just denote your first pair of x's and y's. The 2's mean that comes from your second ordered pairs of x's and y's. So if I look right back over here at the beginning right here, what that tells me is this. This is x sub 1, that's y sub 1, because that's the x and the y, my first pair of numbers. This right here is x sub 2, y sub 2, because they're the x and y coordinates for that second ordered pair. So all I'm going to do is put these 4 values in their appropriate spots. Now be careful and don't get them mixed up. That's where mistakes happen. So y sub 2 minus y sub 1, that would be 3 minus -3. 3 minus -3 over, now let's do my x's. X sub 2 minus x sub 1, that's 2 minus -2. Now this part's just order of operations. 3 minus a negative, well we know minus a negative is adding a positive, so 3 plus 3 is 6. Minus a negative here is the same thing as adding, so 2 plus 2 is 4. Well, holy crap, what do we got here again? Same thing, don't we? So that means that's going to simplify to 3 over 2. Now, let's look at example 2 right here. Okay, now remember, what is our x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2, right there. So let's put our formula down, and guys, You do have to write the formula. If you don't write it, I take off on your grade. Sorry about that, but anytime you use a formula, you got to write it. That's your introductory sentence to your paragraph of work. Okay, so M equals, now watch your pattern here, 4 minus negative 4. For my y's, my x's are negative 4 minus 2. Now let's just go ahead and start simplifying. Well, that's 4 plus 4, isn't it? Which is 8. Negative 4 minus 2 is negative 6. Okay. Now we know 8 over 6 is going to simplify to 4 over 3. And remember, I said we don't typically will leave the negative in the denominator. We slide it up and let it hold it with the numerator. Okay. Just like that. So it's negative 4/3. Okay. Now look at number 3 right here. This is our zero slope. Let's see how this is going to work. So M equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Okay, now let's go ahead and put our numbers in the right spot over here. So I've got 1 minus 1. I've got negative 4 minus 2. Just like that. Now, 1 minus 1 we know is 0, right? Negative 4 minus 2 is negative 6. But 0 divided by anything is just 0. And I'm done. And again, I start seeing, once I get past this formula part, I start seeing how all these things are very similar and repeating in those fractions. Okay, now let's look at our very last one. Okay. So this is our vertical. So we got M y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Now let's put our numbers in. So we'll subtract our y's. 2 minus negative 3, like that. Subtract our x is negative 4 minus negative 4. Now if we simplify, 2 minus negative 3, that's 2 plus 3, which is 5. Negative 4 plus 4, which is 0. But we know we cannot, again, have 0 in our denominator, so we would come right here and we could say that it's undefined. Now, yes, I purposely did that. Sometimes people will say it's an undefined slope. Sometimes people will say it's no slope. They're never going to say it's both at the same time. They use one or the other because these are synonyms. Okay? You can use either. Okay. Now, it's a mouthful. So make sure these notes are copied and put into your interactive notebook, and then return to your assignment and make note on your assignment that you're finding slope all 3 ways. And every time you do it 3 ways, your answer should be the same in all 3 cases.